Good morning. Today I'll talk about signs that indicate that the feet are causing your pain. Now, when pain develops, there's a lot of things that can be causing it, and there's a lot of things that can treat it. And a lot of times, people don't know what to do. Pain develops and they think, where should I go? Should I go to a physiotherapist, a chiropractor, podorthist for proper support? It's hard to know, especially if you don't know what each person does and what the cause of the injury is or the cause of your pain. So today I'll give you a few signs that might point towards the indication that the feet are what causing your pain, and that should be what you're focusing on. Now, one thing I want to point out is a lot of times there can be multiple causes to your pain. So it could be related to muscles, as well as the way your feet are. It could be a lot of different things. So this video will describe when your feet will be a contributing factor, but it might not be the only factor to your pain. First, you want to look at where the pain is. If your pain is in your hand or your head, it might not be related to your feet. So look at anything from the lower back, the hips, and anything lower. So lower limb, anything there could be related to the feet. Take a look at the nature of your injury. So do you remember specifically when the injury happened? Did you roll your foot? Did you step on something? Was it a specific incident that caused your pain? If so, it might not be related to your feet. In that case, you might need to get some rehabilitation, maybe a physiotherapist to see what you can do to heal that injury. Sometimes when that's the case, you're trying to heal the injury, but the feet might be contributing to your lack of healing. So you go and do your healing process with someone like a physiotherapist, and if they say, well, the healing's not going the way we hope to, let's do something else, that's when they might refer out, get a little bit of support, some better shoes. But the first step is really to go to someone like a physiotherapist for something like that. If you have no idea where the pain came from, it slowly came on, or you've had it for years and nothing has ever improved from it, that might be an indication that the feet might be a cause. Next, let's look at the arch height. And this can be a little bit hard to do, but I'll give you a few tips on ways that you can figure out what your arch is doing. Now, what your arch is doing from sitting to standing can be very different. So we'll take a look at what your arch is doing when you're standing up. So this first technique might be a little hard to do on your own. So you can always get somebody else to help you out or find a mirror. Let's look at the actual shape of your arch when you're standing up. So a normal arch will have a little bit of space through here. You should be able to fit your fingers inside your arch. A flat arch or a collapsed arch will be a little closer to the ground. Now, I can't really fit a lot of my fingers through here. There's a lot less space. So there's not a nice arch through here. Now the opposite can also be an issue, having a very high arch. So if the arch is quite high, you might see all the way through to the other side. There might be a space on the outside of the foot. There might be a bit of a point through here, creating a very, very high arch. So that could be also an issue. You can also look at the foot from the front angle. So see here, it's nice and straight through both sides. If the foot's collapsing, this area, the inside of the ankle, can shift in. So you see there's a little bit of a crease through here. It bows out a little bit, or bows out through here and comes in through the other side. This ankle bone will shift inwards a little bit. So there's the normal, and there's the collapse. So you can also go in the other direction. In this case, the foot might twist in like this. It's harder to see. You might see everything shift out a little bit, but from this angle, it's easier to see a collapsed arch than it is to see a very high arch. Next, you can take a look at your heel when you're standing. A good way to do this is actually put a piece of tape, maybe colored tape, on the back of your heel to see where your straight alignment is. And then when you stand up, you can see what the foot does. Now this can be very hard to do on your own, so if you can find another person to help you out, then this would probably be the best way to do it. So I just have some green painter's tape here to use. So I'll take this as well as a black Sharpie. You can also use a pen and draw a straight line, and we'll attach this to the heel so that we can see what the heel is doing when you're standing. So first, find some sort of couch or chair that you can put your knee on. So put your knee down and let your foot dangle so you can see the back of your heel without putting any weight on it. So now I have my foot and it's dangling. So I want to take my finger, find where kind of the flat area is, and that's where my flat area is. So I'm going to put the piece of tape right perpendicular to where my finger is. So here we go. And I'm going to put that piece of tape here. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect because what I'm going to do is put a line right down here. Okay, so I have my Sharpie and I'm going to draw a line right down there. Okay, so there's the finished product. I also crossed the T to give a little bit of a better idea about where the bottom is. Now, to be honest, I did this by myself. I don't have anyone else here to help me, so hopefully that's straight. If it's a little off, sorry about that. Okay, now let's take a look at the back of the heel while you're standing. So this is nice and straight. If the heel's collapsing in, you can see how that point rolls in, how it's not on a straight line anymore. So that's the heel rolling in, and that's back to straight. So you can also look and see if the heel's rolling out, so the opposite direction. See how the point is turning out now? So that's supination, or the foot rolling out. So that's straight, rolling in, straight, and rolling out. Next, you can check your foot by seeing what your footprint is. It's almost like when you're walking on the sand, you can see what your footprint is. But with the sand, your foot can really sink in, so it's hard to tell what your arch is really like in the sand. So this is a way that you can use just at home. Just use a piece of paper. Colored paper might be a little easier to see, but any kind of paper and a bucket of water, even just a plate, just enough, just deep enough with water so that you can cover your entire, all of your arch. Okay, so I've got my bucket of water and a piece of paper. Now this bucket of water has a little bit of a lip at the end, or at one of the sides, so I'm going to put my toes near that side because it doesn't really matter as much if your toes are not completely submerged. It's more the arch that we're concerned about. So I'm going to go ahead, stick my foot in there, make sure that it's covering the whole arch. I can roll my foot if I need to, bring my foot out. I'm going to shake off some excess water and stand completely on that piece of paper, and there we go. And there's my footprint. So I can wait for it to dry a little bit, and then what I'll do is I'll take a pen and I'll just trace the edges. So you can see that some of the edges are starting to dry here, so I'm going to quickly trace these edges before they dry too much. Now you don't need to circle the toes, that's not important. You can do that if you want to, but we're not looking at the toes, we're more looking at everything from here backwards. So there are a few things I want to point out here. First of all, I do have a very collapsed arch, so this doesn't tell me that I have a collapsed arch, but I do have one. So sometimes one test can tell you one thing and the other test can tell you something else. So it's always good to try a few different things. But see, this doesn't tell me I have a collapsed arch through here because there is a nice area open. If this was a little straighter, if there were any blotches through here, might indicate that I have a flatter foot. Some people will have a flat foot that comes all the way out. A very flat foot might come kind of out through here, a little bit more of a bubble. And if you're looking at more of the higher arch, this part through here might not even have any water or anything exposed through, or any contact through this area here. So high arch, no contact through here. Flat arch, you'd see anything around this area or even bulging out through here. Another part I want to look at is at the ball of the foot here. So see how this line, it bulges out slightly at the front? So that's an indication that there's a collapse through this arch here, which is that metatarsal arch or the transverse arch. So if there's a collapse through here, that pad can shift forward and create the bubble at the front. When you're doing this kind of test for your arch, it might be a good idea to do both sides. Sometimes one foot can be very different than the other, and that can also tell you a lot as well. If one foot is different than the other, that can create things higher up, like lower back pain, hip pain. That can create something called a functional leg length difference. Doesn't mean that your legs are actually short on one side than the other, but it could mean that your foot is creating the sense that one leg is a little shorter than the other, and that can create a pain that's like a leg length difference, but it's not structural. It's a functional difference where your foot is pulling things out slightly. Something else you can take a look at are the calluses on the bottom of your foot. Now, I've done a video on that before, but calluses on the bottom of your foot can tell you certain things about the way you're walking. Not always. It could be just the way your shoe is fitting, or it could be a certain activity you're doing. For example, if you're doing tennis and you're going back and forth, that can give you calluses like a flat foot because you're moving in different directions and creating those types of calluses. A callus along the inside of the toe here can indicate that you have a lower arch or collapsed arch. That's because when you push off, you could be pushing off more the inside. And that's the type of callus that might be related to certain activities you're doing. So if you can see here on mine, I've got a little bit of a blister through here. That's just because of the exercises I've been doing. Back and forth, there's a lot of twisting and rubbing through here. But if you don't typically do those exercises, then this callus might indicate that you have a flatter foot. Another area to look at is the ball of the foot. If there's any callusing through this area here, that could indicate there's a collapse through the ball of the foot. That might indicate pain if you have any pain at the ball of the foot or through the toes. You can also look at the outside here, right where that fifth toe is. If there's callusing here, again, might indicate that there's a higher arch, and especially if there's through here. If you have a callus on this point and at that first point and that's it, that could definitely indicate a higher arch because you're putting pressure on those 2 points as well as the heel. If you have any callusing on the inside of the arch through this area here, that could be a very flat arch. That could mean that this bone around this area is actually hitting the ground and causing a bit of rubbing. You can also take a look at one of your old shoes. So take a shoe that you've worn for quite a long time. Maybe it's near the end of its life. The bottom of the shoe can tell you quite a lot. So take a look at where all the wear patterns are. So if there's a lot of wear on the inside of the shoe, so right along the border here, then that might mean you have a collapsed arch. So let's say it's all through here, all the way through the front, then it could be quite collapsed. You should wear on the outside, just slightly on the outside, but if it also comes all the way down, farther down the outside, it could mean that you have a higher arch. Same thing all the way down here. So what would be considered normal is a little bit of wear at the corner of the outside, and then more through the middle of the foot where you go to toe off. So a lot of people will find the wear when they're looking straight at the back. It could wear completely on the outside, pushing the foot out, or even completely on the inside, pushing the foot in. So if it's completely on the inside, that's a big indication that there is that flat foot or a collapsed arch. You can also look at the way the shoe has been deformed. So if the top has shifted completely to the inside, then that could mean also that you have a collapsed arch. Same thing if everything has shifted to the outside on the front or on the top here, then it could mean that you have a bit of a higher arch. So if you find that you do have either a high arch or a low arch from any of these tests, it's probably a good idea to get it checked out. An over-the-counter insert might be a good first step, or even just a good shoe. That might be able to give you some information if you do need support. So if you have a good shoe on, or if you end up using just an over-the-counter insert and it does improve the pain, just even slightly, might be an indication that you need a little bit more. So custom foot orthotic might be the next step if you have a good shoe, if you've tried out an over-the-counter insert. Those things will help to support your foot and give you an idea if you need a little extra support, or even that if that's enough for your foot. Sometimes if you do all that and it gives you just a little bit and it's not giving you any more support, you've tried all of that, that's when it's an indication that you might need something else, like physiotherapy, chiropractor, or something else to help you through the healing process. So in all, if you're really unsure, it's always a good idea to get your feet checked out. And then you can always go from there, see what the recommendations are, and go from there. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I would be happy to help.